I was just minding my own business, doing some moose fact perusing, as I do, and I came across this Voyageur nature book, Moose, by Canadian research scientist Art Rodgers. I do love moose pics, and the description said this picture book was good for kids age 10 plus, so I thought I was in for a wholesome time. Pushed through the forest by the roar of a helicopter overhead, and the snow whipped up by the downwash of its blades, a moose pauses at the edge of a small frozen lake in northern Ontario. As she nears the far shore, the giant bird swoops down and bang! The two men pounce. One takes the head, the other the hindquarters. The moose kicks furiously, and the men's muscles begin to scream with the strain of keeping her down. A third man arrives to subdue her and straps her hind and front feet together with leather belts. A blindfold covers her eyes. Her breathing slows down and she becomes submissive, almost peaceful. Okay. I can honestly say there is no greater thrill than bringing one of these huge creatures under control. Okay. I like moose too, but not like that. Did you know one of the only predators willing to attack an adult bull moose are orcas? Orcas, you might ask, the ocean-dwelling residents of my nightmares? Why them? You see, moose are actually really good swimmers, and they like to swim between the isles of the Pacific Northwest, foraging for food. Their feet actually splay into flippers, and their hollow guard hairs help them float. Then, when they're at their most vulnerable, floating like a tasty morsel above the darkness of the depths, the orcas get them. Cowards is what they are. They wouldn't take them on land. See? Moose are so great, but why don't we ride them? What's up with moose scientists? Join me for more moose facts. So why don't we ride moose? They're basically like a horse, right? Wrong. They're obviously way better. So where's my companion moose? Well, it really comes down to their refined, delicate palates and moose sweat. You see, moose can really only eat fresh, low-fiber shoots of plant matter. They use their large, sensitive proboscises to distinguish between nutritious young plants and fibrous twigs. They need a large range to forage, instead of just grazing indiscriminately, like a horse. And you can't just feed them hay. The other big problem is moose sweat, in that they don't. Other large ungulates like horses and elk, also called wapiti, all sweat, but moose just breathe out hot air. This means that when it's hot out, they just want to hide and snooze in the shade. Actually, in the summer, a moose's favorite activity is to dive down to the bottom of alpine lakes and eat the tender aquatic greens at the bottom. This is a moose photo I took of a moose leaving a lake. I still really want to see one swim. Moose can actually close their nostrils while swimming, and are the only deer that can eat aquatic plants underwater. King Charles XI of Sweden ran into these problems, among others, like their low capacity, when he wanted to build a moose cavalry. Moose are certainly intimidating, and when attacked, they'll actually roar like a predator, so I get it. The only good new idea to come out of the Hobbit trilogy, in my opinion, is Thranduil's moose. Moose domestication has worked somewhat on a small scale. Algenstolta is a famous moose who was domesticated in the early 1900s Sweden. She was orphaned and raised like a horse and taught to pull a sled. She won a trot race against horses on an ice-covered lake. Her owner received the award that time, but moose were officially barred from future races. So there is now a rule that moose can't race horses. Moose and other deer seem to only really care about smell, antler position, and nasal contact in identifying each other. The bipedal male is not distinguished from a quadruped peer. I really want to see the photos these drawings supposedly came from. Moose antlers are huge, and their unique palm shape gives them unusual properties. If the moose faces the right direction in a strong enough wind, the glider wing architecture gives the antlers lift, making them lighter. They also act as parabolic reflectors for sound, which I learned from this paper with this excellent photo. All I really want in life are photo documentations and papers of janky but scientifically sound setups. The researchers put a microphone in an artificial moose ear, mounted them on a moose skull with antlers, and tested how well the mic could pick up sound. With the ears positioned forward, towards the source of the sound, they set the sound pressure baseline to 100%. Then, when the ears were positioned backwards, the sound pressure was 79%. But when it was positioned sideways, towards the antler palms, it was 119. The realistic artificial ears were apparently manufactured in the workshop of the NHK, a public television channel in Tokyo. I looked into the NHK to figure out why they would be manufacturing realistic artificial moose ears, and then I got distracted reading about the Tokyo Rose propaganda broadcasts. Maybe a future video. But back to the paper, I was a little disappointed they didn't use moose sounds, and instead used a low frequency tone. I also just really want a control with no antlers at all. I'd really like to recreate this study with more modern sound equipment, but I'm not sure how to go about procuring moose antlers. I found one on Etsy, but it's a bit more than my budget for this video. But in the process of looking, I found this monstrosity. Just what she wanted, I guess. So, if you haven't seen any of my recent videos, I did in fact procure a moose skull! Hey! Just in time for spooky season. I named him Yako, and it's a cast, so that means it's lighter weight and less stinky. But yeah, I'm super excited. I really want to try to redo that experiment, but this time with like a control mic that I'll keep in a consistent location such that I can like sort of normalize for differences in sound when I'm moving the other one. So I'm super excited about that. And then the other thing I'm sort of curious about is whether or not the antlers themselves will sort of like resonate, kind of like the bone resonation. So I want to see if I can try to use like a pickup to see if I can get that working. But yeah, and then the other thing I got, Mama Moose cow brawler. So this is what hunters use to try to sound like a female moose. And so I want to see how well this will resonate off the antler tongs. And I haven't really tried it yet. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to practice. But yeah, anyways, I'm super excited and hopefully I'll get that video out soon. Yeah, thanks, see ya.